Hello people. Today I'm going to make another attempt at fixing the iPhone 2G. Well, I have two of here, but I'm going to tell you a little story before I get started. Now you guys might remember that a while ago I bought an iPhone 2G for I think $40 or something like that off eBay. And I got it and it did work, but there was a problem and the battery was bad. So I decided I was going to order another iPhone 2G, or actually wait a second. No, I ordered a new battery, but then I tried to remove the old battery, which is actually this one right here, and I messed up. I pulled the trace right off the motherboard, which actually I can show you right here. As you can see, trace pulled right off the motherboard. So I said, well, that sucks. So I returned the good battery that I bought because I needed the money back. And I bought a second iPhone 2G, which is this one, let's say. And it had a broken home button and a broken screen. So I took this apart, and the plan was just to transplant the good motherboard, which is this one, and the battery in. But I accidentally punctured the battery trying to remove it. So, yeah. I ended up with two non-functional iPhone 2Gs, and I kind of gave up on the project. But today we are going to try to do this. I'm going to try my best. So basically what I did a while back when I attempted this project is I took both iPhones apart and I put the best parts into one unit, and that would be this one. This one has the screen is very scratched up, as you can see, but the home button works and it's the least cracked. So I decided to use this screen. And then of course I have the motherboard, the only good motherboard I have right here. As you can see, it has 3 traces on it. And then of course the rest of the case. This is the back cover that's in better condition, so I'm going to use that one. Anyway, I did this yesterday. I actually found some wires that I soldered on here, and as you can see, I have both soldered them to the short wires that are on this board here, and I insulated them the best I could with hot glue. Now the only problem is I'm not sure how this is going to fit in, because it's, as you can see, the battery is pretty tight in there, so I'm really not sure how I'm going to get this to work, because as you can see there, the hot glue is like basically right where the battery terminals are, so I'll have to work my magic to get this in there. And of course I'm going to cut some of this off, but I basically just did this to give myself a little more extra room. Now the battery itself, this is going to be a pain in the ass, because as you can see, this white wire is by far the shortest, so soldering that is going to be a pain. However, I think I can remove this phone tape here and just pull this wire up and give me a little more room. But anyway, I'm going to kind of figure out how I'm going to do this. I'm going to solder this thing, and this phone will work. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and attempt my first, well, no, I'm going to make a second or a third attempt, depending on how you look at it, at fixing this phone, because I really want this phone to work. Okay, so I got my soldering gear out. I have my 30-watt soldering iron that came with my toolkit a while back. I also have a wet napkin. You're going to want to have this. Something like a sponge or a wet napkin will work. Basically, you're going to want to wipe off the solder tip every now and then. And then, you know, obviously I have my solder here. I have another whole bag of it over here, so I'm good to go. Of course, the trick to getting solder to flow is actually not heating. When you're soldering wires together, don't heat up don't just push the solder onto the tip of the iron and then expect it to make a good connection. That'll make what's called a cold solder joint. Basically what you want to do instead is heat up the wire and then push the solder onto the wire, and that'll make a good connection. So yeah, that's what I'm going to attempt to do. I'm going to cut these to length and strip them. Same with the battery end of things, but I already plugged in my soldering iron just to make sure it's nice and warm when I'm going to use it. So there we go. Okay, so I just took a better look at the battery, and this is my hack job from the last time. I was able to pull this white wire out a little more from the silicone that was in here holding it in, so that'll give me a little more room to work. And it looks like all 3 of these wires are actually soldered and ready to go, but you can see that I did a pretty appalling solder job last time I soldered more wire onto this. I guess I'm just going to leave it. I need to figure out a way to insulate all this, because once I shove it all back in this phone, assuming I can do so, we don't want anything shorting out. So I guess I'll figure that out. But what I'm going to try to do right now is actually get these wires connected and ready to go. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do right now. Alrighty, 2 down, 2 to go, and yes, I'm aware this looks like the world's worst solder job in the history of solder jobs, but at this point I just want this phone to work. I would never do this to anyone else's phone. And yeah, this is probably a fire hazard, but you know what? I'm going to get this damn thing working. And yeah, we got 2 wires connected. I know it's got like 4 segments of wire, but whatever, right? So I got 1 more to go, and then we're going to test it and put it back together and try to insulate that, and hopefully we'll be done. That was the most tedious thing I have ever done in my life. I really hope this works. Yes, again, I'm aware it looks horrible, but I'm going to go ahead and plug it in and see if this phone will actually boot now. See that? It works. So now I just need to figure out how to put all this stuff back together. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it, and we will try to get this thing going. Well, this was a complete success. I was able to get everything back into the housing. I just had to kind of stuff it in this top portion here. And the phone is fully functional. Well, not fully functional. It's mostly functional yet again. I had to tape this bottom plastic thing on. It won't go on. The 2 clips that held it on broke, so I have to keep this on with electrical tape. It doesn't look horrible, and you know, for as old as this phone is, I don't really care. I might refine this later. I might just put another black strip here, but we'll see. But anyway, you know how I said it had that battery problem where if you lock the phone it would turn itself off? Well, that ain't no problem anymore. It seems to run just fine off battery, which is interesting because before it never used to do that. So it seems to work just fine. The only problem is I'm not sure if this is because I'm on an old iOS version, but if I try to connect to Wi-Fi here, let me just 1 second. If I click join, is it gonna work? Oh, okay. So it just connected. I guess it didn't. It said it couldn't join before, so that's good. I guess the Wi-Fi is working now. Let's go on the internet. Sometimes also the home button doesn't work. It's kind of finicky, but for as old as this phone is, it's fine. So let's go to Google. See if this thing will load. And there you go. This thing is a trooper. So, oh, and by the way, how I insulated the wires was I just wrapped electrical tape around the bare spots, and then I kind of just shoved everything in there. So I could not be more happy with this. I am so glad that this phone works, because I mean, this phone was the start of it all. This phone single-handedly revolutionized the mobile industry, and I'm so glad to have one that works now. It seems to be fully functional now, which is kind of funny. If I go to, I just want to do this out of nostalgia's sake. Yeah. So I don't know, I think I'm going to keep this thing on iOS 3.1.3, which is what it's running right now. So, yeah, I thought about downgrading it, but nah, I'll keep it on the 3.1.3 so it's at least somewhat usable. So there we go. I am so glad that this phone repair went this well. So there it is. The iPhone 2G, the original iPhone that started it all, is now working again. So I reworked the taping I did. It looks a little better now. It doesn't look amazing, but hey, it'll have to do.